Welcome to your If Astrology Isn't Real minisode, presented to you by Cosmic RX Radio, where I spill the tea on this week's headlines. Politics, pop culture, world events, all written in the stars. Let's dive in. Okay, if astrology isn't real, babies, we are back. Let's talk about if astrology isn't real, then why do things keep happening in the real life realm that are so accurate to what's happening in the planets? It's making me feel like my inner group chat of my brain is popping off. And I am very pleased to announce on the day of this recording, October 9th, if astrology isn't real, then why was a ceasefire, and hopefully this one lasts. Why was a ceasefire announced during Libra season, right after that Aries full moon, right ahead of this Libra new moon? It's beautiful. It's poetic. There is something about Libra season that just makes us feel into the we can create harmony of it all. Am I right? So many of you texted me this morning about that. And hello, my babes, my baddies. It is me, Madi Murphy, your messy metaphysician, your cosmic consultant. And a lot of you have come. We have a lot of new people here who have been messaging me because people are like, seriously, WTF is happening. And also, getting hits of things from astrologers and psychics and healers for years being like, we have a big paradigm shift coming. And everyone's like, yeah, sure, Lisa. And now they're like, wait, no, there is a paradigm shift happening. And how do we make sense of it? Because no one in the traditional outlets are like making any sense. So I'm like, welcome to the weird side. Welcome to the revolution. Let's get into it. If you're new here, this is our mini podcast episode that complements our main podcast. On there, we do interviews, but most importantly, I would say, and most consistently on Mondays, we do your energy report, your emotional weather for the week. This is where we just look at what happened in the week behind us in pop culture, in politics, and how do we break it down through the planetary lens to give us some cosmic context so we can not only digest it, but also do something with this information, right? So like I said, we just witnessed a ceasefire announced on October 9th, right here in Libra season, in this liminal window after the Aries full moon. Aries, in its highest calling, is the sacred warrior, who's a protector, who's a defender. Of course, Aries is connected to the god of war. And right before this new moon, are there like a million steps ahead of us and a million steps needed? Of course. But are we also going to celebrate every inch of progress like it's sacred? Also, hell yes. And Libra energy, again, in the duality, in the balance with Aries energy, for all of us, really reminds us that harmony is not passive, right? It's negotiated, it's imagined, it's assisted into being. And it's also very much working with Pluto and Aquarius, everyone getting involved, right? Like people on social media, the flotillas, the boycotts. It's not passive, and we can't wait for governments to do everything that we want them to do. It's really a we the people time, and we are feeling that. We are feeling that here in the US. We're feeling that in Chicago. We're feeling that in DC. We are feeling that everywhere. Also, just have to say, if astrology isn't real, I saw a really cool video of a huge crowd of people here in New York City, again, on October 9th, right as I saw the news about that. And that news might have come in yesterday on October 8th. I just was like offline yesterday. So I'm considering this my morning, dump, my morning research to do this podcast. I also saw a crowd of people singing Imagine, right? Like that beautiful anthem of peace by John Lennon, whose birthday is today, October 9th, in Central Park. And one of my clients, mystical mentees, Heather of Monks Alive, beautiful spiritual strategist, musician, just channeler of like the stars and the spirit realm and the creature realm to hear us on earth, always has like reminded me of and talks about the power of singing in a group and what that does to, like, I think it's one of the only times that we release, I should have done research before this. I think it's dopamine. There's like, the happy drugs, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And there's like one of those is only released through a few activities. And one of them is singing in groups. And I love that like the collective soundtrack queued up a peace anthem in this, cardinal air sign ruled by Venus, John Lennon's birthday. And it just had me a lot thinking about, right? Like in my book, The Libra Key is we can create harmony. So as I go through the news and as we talk about things, I want us to remember that harmony, it's not a one note thing. It's not one time. It's not a one time thing. It's an ongoing practice. It's a dance. There's an elegance to it, right? In Libra season, I've been thinking about that a lot. Elegance, balance, beauty, like almost a levity in the air sign of like pulling back a little bit when things get heavy and coming back into this reminder that also this harmony requires a note from all of us. And it doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be, actually, it shouldn't be the same. And as we move through out of this Aries full moon, like I hope that Aries full moon just burned up anything that's been blocking any sort of feelings of, not having courage to do what you want to do or speak your truth, because that is kind of what I felt in watching that John Lennon moment in the park. Is like, I knew it, but it was like the physical representation of like, oh yeah, our voices all matter, right? We need your truth, your art, your courage, your tone, your note to be in this cosmic choir. Okay. So this is a little planetary pep talk, because the divide, it's realer than ever. We are feeling it. There's so much, going on in terms of the Uranus and Gemini of it all. Everything is split, split, split. So if you need a good reminder, 2 podcasts back on If Astrology Isn't Real, I just give a little refresher of how we got to this moment, right? What are the big players? And they're big players indeed right now going on in the cosmos. But a lot of you, I always like to hear what you all come up with for the If Astrology Isn't Real. And, Gemini is coming to shatter language, polarize ideology, create, fractures and factions within fractures and factions, glitching our narratives. So we're essentially forced to create new ones. And there's been like so much that it's almost, my pop culture moment for the week is Taylor Swift's new album. And I've done things about her chart before. We definitely totally called her engagement coming, and that was cool. And I'm not going to comment on the album. I've listened to it. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't hate on Taylor either, though. I'm just kind of in this place of like neutral. I appreciate her, but I also, like anyone really famous and powerful, you put yourself out there and there's just certain like, okay, like you put yourself in the public eye, right? In terms of like criticism or just you're kind of a role model, and there's not a lot of young female billionaires out there. And in a lot of ways that's awesome. And in other ways it's like let's not do things the way these man's always been doing it, because they be breaking shit. Things getting real sloppy out here. So Taylor Swift's new album, less about the actual album. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts in the captions. If you're watching this, in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know right below. I think it's really fun to interact. What did you think of the album? And how are you feeling? Like, she is a pop icon. She is one of the best, most brilliant, I would say, musical businesswomen of all time. Branding genius. I love her. Like, sometimes there's questions of her birth chart. Is she a Scorpio rising or a Cap rising? I'm like, oh, I could see both. I always go for the Scorpio rising though, because of just her ability to like the little detective work and the secrets and all. Also, like a lot of her lyrics feel scorpionic. And so I'm curious what you thought of it. And I'm also curious, like pop icon, or is she another out of touch billionaire, right? And it's like both can exist at once, and we can at once be happy for her and her success and her love, but also be like, hey, like you have a lot of money and power. And I know she does a lot of good on her tours. I know she takes care of her crew. I know she's donated a lot of money in the city she's gone to. But, I didn't really get deep into like the album or deep into the discourse, but just from being in like the zeitgeist and like the social media pool this week, I saw a lot of a lot of things being said. And all I will say is that releasing a album with, a Libra sun, Aries moon, she released it on the full moon. I was like, okay, that's immediately, it's a culmination of a long time, lifetime of work for her, which I love. And it really is the balance of the me and the we. She has some Aries moon on their energy, her being a little sexier, a little sassier. I know there's some song Wood, and I'm like, good for you. We love that. And then there's the Libra energy. It seems like very influenced by her partnership. But even some people were saying like, this album is quote unquote boring because she's happy. And we know Travis is a Libra. So there's that. But then, looking into the astrology of the day too, I just keep thinking of the Uranus and Gemini of it all the day it was released, because again, just divisive. And I'm just warning you, the Gemini energy is not going to quit in terms of like, I know it's been a while for us not agreeing on anything as a collective, but we're going to see like divisions within the hardcore Swifties, right? Divisions within MAGA, divisions within leftists. Like,
we're seeing like the micro division. And if this seems familiar to 2020, it is, because during 2020, we were in the North Node in Gemini, right? Could we, like, I think that was another big turning point in like division within division of like in groups you wouldn't expect. The last time North Node was in Gemini before that was 9/11, right? Division, 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 division. And now we're seeing it just accelerate. So this is also kind of like just my larger point of like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a music critic expert, and I wouldn't even trust myself if I was, because what does that even mean? It's art, right? It's interpretive. But I'm curious. I'm just pulling up the chart. I don't have the exact time. I'm just looking at the planets. But yeah, like Mercury in Libra, Venus in Virgo, Mars in Scorpio. I'm like, okay, like we're feeling the Mars in Scorpio too. Like it felt like there was a few things from what I heard that were like veiled or not so veiled. I guess she came for Charlie XCX. That is one thing that was interesting. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we having like the white gentrified version of like Kendrick and Drake beef, but like in a way that no one really cares about? I was just like, I think that's where I'm feeling like, do we need that in this day and age? And like, I didn't really care about the wood thing. I'm like, good. I love when someone gets a little stigmatized. I love when someone, especially a strong, powerful woman, admits that they have like sexual needs. I've always thought of Taylor as a little like asexual. So I'm like, good for you. I love that. And I love like when we get to be horny for our man, whether it's like a long-term boyfriend, a partner, a fiance, a husband. Like if you're keeping that alive and it's been in a long-term way, I'm like, yes. And this is where I don't know enough of the rhetoric, but I saw some things. I guess there's criticism that she had of Travis Kelce's ex, who was a Black woman. People did not like that. And so again, like the discourse ran from just like, meh, kind of a boring album because she's in love, or a little bit like one note, to like the Charlie XCX, why are we breaking down women, to the all the way in the realm of like, is some of this inflammatory, racist adjacent kind of language? I don't know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, how you feel about it. But the last thing I'll say about this, it's very Neptune and Aries, right? We're all a little bit like Neptune rules art, Neptune rules music, and it's like Neptune and Aries and the full moon. It brought out a lot of heat. But again, not really. Again, art is always very subjective, but in this sense, even felt more so, right? And it felt like there was some people being like, okay, I do ride hard for Taylor, but maybe like she could have been a little bit more discerning with this. Or some people being like, I never rode hard for Taylor, but I like this about it. And I'm like, very interesting. But the thing that I'll say is I saw an interesting conversation happening on Threads. And essentially someone was like, I feel like it's really misogynistic. It was a man saying it. Just, I'm like, sometimes men, I'm like, just shut up, go away, please. Like, can we just normalize like not listening to men? But they're like, you have to think this is bullying and it's misogyny. And someone raised an interesting point in the comments, and they're like, well, yes, our society like hates women. That is so fucking for real. Also, to say that you can't criticize her and that she's some like, he was framing it like she was this helpless girl. And we're like, she's actually a brilliant businesswoman. She's a billionaire. I think this is her 12th album. She's been doing this for a long time. She's figured out how to subvert so much, manipulation, oppression within the music industry. She's reinvented herself. Eras, hello. Like, she's a very, very smart, very strategic person. She's made a lot of money. So to say that like we can't criticize her because she's a woman also feels like sexist, or like.
So that was my Taylor discourse. And now I am in my kitchen because my Wi Fi is being really weird in my room and my child is sleeping in an office turned extra bedroom. So moving on. Again, there's like so much happening in the political sphere that it is sometimes really hard, especially as we're like getting back into the groove here, of figuring out like what is one topic to drill down on. And I feel like everything is just happening rapid speed. So what I thought I would do today is, coming off that Aries full moon, I thought this could be a really good time to remind us that there's some really interesting eclipse patterning, eclipse cycles um, doing their thing. And the Aries full moon that we just had was coming, if you remember, that big, great American eclipse that happened on April 8th, 2024. It's where the eclipse path crossed North America, Mexico, US, Canada, and like made an X. I
I'm going to actually recommend, if you want to go deeper into this, S.J. Anderson, who I absolutely love on his YouTube, went into a really detailed analysis of some tools of predictive analysis and tools of what we saw in the past with eclipses in this country, but essentially are still in the like almost like a deeper eclipse journey that began in 2017. Remember that eclipse? Remember the one that Trump looked at in the sun? Yeah, that eclipse. These were the two, big eclipse moments where the US especially was like getting activated by them. It was like directly overhead. Basically, it's just to say that I was thinking a lot about that this week. And I was thinking about our Pluto return as a US, as a country that happened. It went peak in 2022, 2023, but we're still, the way Pluto works, it's very slow moving. So Pluto has been conjunct our Pluto starting in 2017 and will be there till like 2029. But again, Pluto, it's decay, it's rot, it's breakdown, but it's also breakthrough. It's also, it's like the abuse of power, and then it's the writing of power. It's revealing the rot and healing it. So just as a reference, like, again, I love looking at the astrology happening because it helps give me context, helps me understand the rhythms, and it does help me show up more open heartedly with more faith and less fear. And I think that is a big medicine of these times. Like, can we show up as, instead of feeling like we're in, just like the worst possible timeline, can we instead think about that we're part of this joyful reimagining? And can we stay in a place of, like S.J. Anderson says, like this levity, even though there's really heavy, serious things happening in the world. And this has just been a subject that's come up a lot in my events, in talking with friends and families and a few clients, of like, we all know there's serious things happening. We are showing up, right? With that note I talked about before, we were talking about showing up with courage. We're standing up for what's right. But there's also something really healing about embodying that energy of we can create harmony in everyday moments, right? Like being really kind and open with a stranger, laughing, being silly, just being extra gracious, extra patient, giving someone a compliment, supporting someone. I feel like in the past month, coming back into New York City and now with the boys, just that little bit scooch removed out of, needing me all the time, being able to go out a little bit more and being in like kind of just sacred witnessing and sacred play with the people in New York City. I'm like, God, there is such beauty in humanity. And a lot of people are really closed off, and rightfully so. It's a scary time, but there's something about opening your heart energy that I think is like, again, it's like the micro little bits of evolution that do fuel this like collective revolution. And I just want us to know that, like, this is not the end, right? This is the phoenix moment. This is not just the tomb, it's the womb. And we are all part of the doulas. We are all part of the midwifing. And anyone who's been through birth knows it's not neat and pretty, and it's not linear, and it doesn't usually go as planned. But we really are. We're birthing this new world, and it might, it's going to take longer than we ever always think it is, because it took us a while to get here. But there is so much joy and beauty and new art and new love and new like gifts and magic that's being sparked all over the planet at any given moment. And of course, that's not always gonna, make it to we talked about the Uranus and Gemini of it all, the attention economy that doesn't get clicks, it doesn't get likes, it doesn't get engagement, it doesn't get whatever open read KPIs on an email. But I just want to remind us all that's there. So I would definitely say go check out S.J. Anderson. I try and keep these into mini-sodes, and he's also way more technical and grounded than I am, especially at this phase of my life. And I've always learned so much from him, and he's just a beautiful soul. So go check out his video on the eclipses. And we are standing in a moment of time that I don't think anyone's ever lived through. We lived through a lot of change, we lived through a lot of revolution, but there's a lot happening kind of on every front right now, and it's all really needed. But with that, it's important to understand what you need to show up, right? So beautifully, for all of this planetary change, you also need to show up on the personal level for yourself. So let me know in the comments below, just, yeah, your thoughts on everything, the Uranus and Gemini, if you have any thoughts about Libra season. I will say, in terms of theory or prediction corner, just for funsies, we have on Monday, Pluto is stationing direct in Aquarius. And we have a really crazy full moon. It's on November 5th. So, but we're kind of starting the 13th. We'll be in the shadow of that. And I just feel like the coming few weeks are going to be even nuttier, and a lot of things being exposed and revealed. Maybe that's everything from Epstein to things with, maybe finally some limitations on ICE. I don't really know, but I always know just like the headlines, the plot points. How it plays out is always surprising, even to me, and I would say every astrologer living through it. But I'm just going to say, let's keep an eye on that Pluto stationing direct in Aquarius, just pulling for that Pluto energy to do some beautiful transformative work and really, redistributing, and even in a small dose, we'll even take a tablespoon of some power to the people energy. And I wanted to start on here. Yeah, like I like looking at birth charts of people. So I was going to do some people that I thought really embodied like this kind of cosmic zone leadership. Here are people who I think are embodying really beautiful gifts in their chart. I've done this before a little bit, but people who are really just different, right? Like part of we talk about the weirdos, taking center stage, the heart-centered creators, visionaries, writers, truth tellers. And I have some requests. I think I'm going to start with Dochi next week because I love her. And I think that she is such a great model of just like the kind of artist that we are ready for and the kind of artist that the world is going to really like need in this coming chapter. So if there's people you want me to look in their birth charts and see what exactly is it about them that we can learn in how they carry themselves or something they do that we can realize, oh yeah, we have that. I admire that in them, but it can also inspire something in me because we all have all 12 signs. We all have the same planets in our birth charts. We just have to sometimes remember and reactivate certain parts. So that's what I'm going to leave you for today. And remember, we're facing towards the future. We are going to try to stay in this place of feeling a certain elegance and really tuning into what is the unique note and tone we are bringing into this collective song as we continue to what I hope would be create harmony for ourselves and the world. So signing off, let me know. I'm excited to hear your comments, and I will see you next week. Do you love getting your Cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.